بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So today we start Kitab al-Fara'id wal-Wasaya. So inheritance and wills. So there's a chapter of inheritance and wills. Inheritance is a lot of fun. It's just interesting of how it all works. I'm going to start this by giving an example, just so that I can perk your interest, and then after that I'll start going through the actual text. So here's an example. I'm going to write this in English, even though I've never done it in English before, so it's my first time actually trying this in English. I usually write in Arabic, but I'll do it in English. So a person dies. So once a person dies, and he's left some amount of money after them, so usually they come to us saying we want to know how to divide the inheritance. So I usually would go something like this. I would make start making a table, and I'll write here the wife. Sorry?
We got the second wife.
It's interesting enough, even if it's like 4 wives, they still all just take the one place. You'll see in a minute. All this will be explained, inshallah. If you don't know how this works, this will be very helpful for you. So this is how I usually would start doing this. And then in front of it, right on the left side, I would write here 8th, here 6th, and here I'd write something called asaba. I put ayn, which is a word we're going to explain very soon. You guys understand, inshallah. Right? Now, 6 and 8, the common smallest denominator, I think that's what they say call it in math in English, I'm not 100% sure, is 24.
Sorry to cut you off, but what is Kitab al-Fara'id wal-Wasaya?
Inheritance and wills. And then what's left is 17. Alright, so 17, he's going to get twice what the girl gets. You can't divide this by 3, unfortunately. So we times everything by 3 just to make it easier. So now 3 times 24. What's 3 times 24? Give me. Is it 72? Yeah. And we're done. So now, if a man comes to you, or a family comes to you and say, man, or the man died, he left behind him a mother, a wife, a daughter, and a son, right? And a lot of other family members, like a ton of other family members. He has brothers, and he has uncles, and he has cousins, and he has nephews and nieces. These are the ones that actually matter, right? These are the ones that are actually put up. And this is how his inheritance is going to go. You're going to take whatever he owns. Let's say he owns, what's a good number here? Okay, I'm just give a number. Let's say this guy's really $10,000. So what you're going to do is you're going to divide 10. Okay, like he left. That's nothing. What's $10,000? Come on. Okay, $100,000. He left $100,000. So his whole inheritance is $100,000. All right. You're going to divide that inheritance into 72. Sections. So we're going to divide it by 72. So someone with a phone, do you have a phone? Saudi? Okay, do the math for me. So divide it by 72. What do we get?
About 1,388.89.
This one had
0.8?
89 cents. 89 cents.
All right. So the wife will get this number times 9. All right. So she'll get this number times 9. So times that by 9, please.
12,500.
12,500. You can round up the number. That's okay. The mother will get this number. Times by 12. So times it by 12, that's the first number. 1388 times 8, 9.
16,666.
666. Wow, nice. The daughter will get it times 17. Same number, 1388 times 17.
23,611.
And the boy will get it, the son, times 34.
47,222.
So if you add this all up, you'll get 100,000. Okay? Does that just kind of make a bit of sense?
And no other family members get nothing if those people are there?
Yeah. Count. Give me family members. You want to count? Count family members for me?
Father.
No, father's dead.
Here.
In here he's dead. All right. So father here has to be dead. Not only the father has to be dead, but the grandfather has to be dead too. Because if the father or the grandfather is dead, then they would exist here as well. All right. So I'm telling you. So give me family members. I'll tell you some of them that are there that don't matter, and some of them that are not here right now because they're deceased. So the father here has to be dead.
Grandmother.
The grandmother. So the grandmother, as long as the mother's there,
Gets nothing.
she gets nothing. She would get. There's a difference of opinion whether she gets if the father's grandmother would get something. Or the father's mother, would she get something here? Not because the father's not there, then his parents would be able to get something on his behalf. There's a difference of opinion here.
Can you repeat that?
So the mother's mother is not going to get anything because she's already alive, but the father's mother may get something. But that's differed upon, generally speaking. But yeah, she would get something. So the grandmother would get something. What about siblings?
Brothers,
Yeah, siblings. They get nothing. Nothing.
nephews.
Uncles, nephews, right? Nothing.
What about
Step, the word step, all right? Nothing. Say step, khalas, nothing.
in-laws? Nothing.
In-laws. You're also going to give your inheritance to your in-laws. Come on, ya Yusuf. Have some, no, sorry, no, nothing like that, no.
Grandchildren. Did they get anything?
So these two, their children get nothing. But if he has a son or a daughter that are deceased, and they have kids, then they get something. All right? So this is just an example. We didn't get into, but this is the bread and butter of it. This is how we kind of go through things. I just want to perk your interest by giving an example. Yeah, Khalid.
Is this like a will?
Yeah, this is like if someone died, not his. This is how we would divide their inheritance. So what can he, if he left $100,000, what can his will be? What is the?
A third of it can.
A third. So a third he can give away, right? But he can't give more than a third. He can give 33,000, but he couldn't give more than that, right? But let's say he didn't have a will. I mean, he didn't give any of his money away. Then his son would take 47,000 of what he left out of the 100,000. His daughter would get 23,000. His mother would get 16. His wife would get 12.
Does the deceased get anything for his inheritance in terms of ajr?
What do you mean?
Like, let's say a guy has 100,000 and he left enough money for his wife.
Yeah.
Does that mean he gets ajr because he?
Yeah. If you leave your family with money, it's much better, and you get ajr for that. Yes.
Oh, I have two questions. Why is it 1/3?
So you're not allowed to give more than a third of your money away as donations.
Is that Islamic? Or
Yeah. So Islamic, you're not allowed to do more because if you give all your money away, then what are your kids going to get when you die? You'll leave them with no money, right? So you can only give a third of your money away.
So does someone get more ajr if he gives away money? Like.
Well, it depends. It depends on how much he has. If he has a lot, so like his kids are going to be well taken care of, giving away more gets more ajr. And if he doesn't have a lot, then not giving money and keeping it to your kids, you'll get more ajr. So it's based on how much money you have and what you're leaving your descendants with. Like, are you leaving them with enough money?
Why does this son get more?
That's the Quranic الذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين. Every one boy gets as much as two girls, and I'll explain that inshallah why in a few minutes. Can you get me a tissue so I can take this off? Thank you. Okay, let's start by reading the text, and I'll explain a lot of this as we go along. I just thought it would be nice to do an example first, just to get you guys interested, get you all interested inshallah in this before we start. Because you'll see that a lot of people, they ruined this. Look, they ruined it. Subhanallah.
If you write over it with the pen,
Yeah.
it will wipe it off.
No, it's actually broken.
Oh.
No, it's actually a dent, like someone put something in it. Okay, so let's start. وَالْوَارِثُونَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ عَشَرَةٌ. And from men there are 10 people who can inherit. Who can inherit. Not they will always inherit, but they can inherit. So the one, Ashara, the first, al-ibn, the son, وَابْنُ الْإِبْنِ, and the son of the son, so the grandson, وَإِن سَفَلْ, and keep on going, and the son of the son of the son, they can inherit. I'm not saying that they will every time. I'm saying that they can. I mean, there are situations where they could inherit something. وَالْجَدْ, وَالْأَبْ, sorry, and the father. وَالْجَدْ, and the grandfather. وَإِنْ عَلَى, and just keep on going if needed. وَالْأَخْ, the brother. وَابْنُ الْأَخْ, the nephew. وَإِن تَرَاخَ, and keep on going as well. وَالْعَمْ, the uncle. وَابْنُ الْعَمْ, and the cousin. وَإِن تَبَاعَدْ, and as far as you go, they could also inherit. وَالزَّوْج, the husband. وَالْمَوْلَى الْمُعْتِقِ, the zawj, the spouse, the husband. Al-mawla al-mu'tiq is the owner who freed a slave. So if you had a slave and you freed this slave, you will get some of their inheritance. Right? And this is as like an act of kindness to. It's like a reward for someone who frees slaves. All right. So those are 10 type of men who can inherit in a given situation. Obviously, they don't all inherit every time. Like I said, like the example I just gave you, like it's only one per man who inherited, which was the son. وَالْوَارِثَاتُ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ سَبْعٌ, and from the women there are 7 different types of women who can inherit. Again, can. Number 1, the daughter, al-bint. وَبِنْتُ الْإِبْن, and the daughter of the son. وَالْأُمُّ, and the mother. وَالْجَدَّةُ, and the grandmother. وَالْأُخْتُ, the sister. وَالزَّوْجَةُ, the wife. وَالْمَوْلَاةُ الْمُعْتِقَةُ, and the owner of the slave who also freed one. So a lady who owns a slave and freed will also get inherit. No, they don't go on. No. وَمَنْ لَا يَسْقُطُ بِحَالٍ خَمْسَةٍ, and there are 5 people who will always inherit. All right, so these are the important ones that we have to definitely memorize. So you need to know this. You'll be able to help a lot of people when it comes to inheritance. Just knowing these simple things, you'll be surprised how almost no one knows this stuff. So there are 5 types of people. 5 people who always inherit. Meaning if they're alive, they're getting money. You will always inherit. There's no situation where they won't if they're alive. So the first one, az-zawjan, spouses. All right. So if your wife passes away, you will always inherit, and if you pass away, she will always inherit. So that's 2. Parents. Your mom and your dad will always take some amount of your inheritance if you pass away. Always. If they're alive, they're going to get some. And وَوَلَدُ الصُّلْبِ, and children. Male or female, your kids. Your kids will always get a certain amount of your inheritance. So these are the 5 people who will always inherit you. Right? So if you pass away and you leave behind a spouse, parents, and children, they're definitely going to get some of these. Actually, if you have all of them, then they're the only people who will inherit.
So
that makes sense? So if you have a spouse, both parents and kids, right? Then they're the only people who will inherit. No one else will be put there. You put, on the diagram, no one else will exist. So let's give an example of that right now, just to make this simple, and so that you see how this would work. So let's say you came and told me a lady passed away, and she left behind her. All right. No, this is horrible. Let's use this. And she left behind her a husband. Okay, this is not good. All right, fair. Right. She left behind her a husband, a father, a mother, 2 sons, and 3 daughters. Right. So she passed away, and this is whom she left. All right, so let's start by putting the fara'id, meaning what are they owed. So how much will the husband get if his wife passes away? Let's see. Yeah, from the Quran. Give me how much is how much do they get? So you don't know if your wife passes away what you get?
I'll look it up.
You look it up? All right. So the husband, if there are no kids, he will get half. And if there are kids, he will get a quarter. Okay? So the husband here will get the quarter of the inheritance of what his wife passed away left. Now what does the father and the mother get at this point? All right. So the father and the mother, they both, what do they get? They both get 1/6 of what is left.
Right?
Yep. Okay. And then the two sons and the 3 daughters. It's called asaba. So they get the rest, whatever is left of it all. Okay. So let's first of all find a common denominator for 4th and 6th and whatever. So what would we put? 12. So 3, right? And then 2 and 2, right? So 5, 7, and this left is 5 for all of them. Now, in order for this to work here, you have 3, 5, 7. Right, so you have 7 shares that are going to exist here. So 7 shares, let's times it all by 7, just to make it, so that we actually do the math here. So 7 times 12 is add up to what? 84, right? I'll fix my math if I make a mistake. 7 by 21, 14, 14. And then 7 times 5 is 35. Each daughter will get 5, okay? And each boy will get 10. So add them up. 2 times 20 is 20, 15, 35. That's the number, right? So these all add up to this. Now, what did the woman leave in her life? Give me a different number. Let's say she left $50,000, right? So what she actually owns is $50,000. So how do we do the math here? So what you do is you divide 50,000 by 84. Yalla, Saad, give me the number.
$595.24.
Okay, so the 595 times it by 21 and give me the number. So we're timesing it by 595.
12,495.
The same number, 595, times it by 14.
8,330.
And then times 10 by 595.
5,950.
5,000?
950.
950, it's 595.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I don't know. My brain's not. And then times same number by 5.
2,975.
And then, should you now multiply by 8 instead? Because there's 8 members in total. Husband, father, mother, 2 sons, 3 daughters. Why'd you multiply by 7 again?
Because here there are 7 shares, 3 daughters and 2 sons. Each son has 2 shares, that's 4, plus 3, that's 7. So we're just looking for a common denominator to make the math easier. So she left $50,000. As you can see, the husband is getting the lion's share of this. And he gets the most amount. Why? Because the kids are still alive and the family is still alive. And he's going to use that money, of course, to take care of his children. So you may say, well, look, the father and mother got a lot of money. They got actually more when the son got. Yeah, but that's because the husband's alive. That makes sense? Take out the husband and then the kids will get more. They'll get more than their grandparents. And the reason that they get more is because 1, 2, 3 take care of these ones. Like that's what they do. Like the grandparents and the husband are there to care for the children. But this is what they get in terms of their inheritance from their mother. That's what they actually get from $50,000 in a situation that is similar to this. Now, if you took out 2 sons and 3 daughters, of course each son would get, quite a bit more. I mean, the numbers would change yet again if you were to change the numbers. Let's change the number of children just for the benefit of doing this.
So there's one son he'd get, like...
Hold on, you have to change all of this, by the way. Like, all this I'd have to change.
But the shares stay the same.
Hold on, give me a minute. So we have 1 son and 1 daughter. How many shares do we have now? They get 5 out of this.
5, yeah.
Yeah, but there are only 3 shares.
Yeah.
Right? So only 3 shares. So we times this whole thing by 3 instead of times it by 7. times it by 3. 3 times, right? 36, 9, 6, 6. And then we times it by 3, she gets 5, he gets 10. So now who gets the most? Son gets the most, right? Still the husband gets a lot, but the son gets the most. Understanding how this works? And there's different variations in terms of mother and father. Do they get both? Some of them say they don't get each one a 6, but they kind of get jointed. So there's different variations for this as we go along. But this is, generally speaking, this is how we break this down. So $50,000, just you would divide it by 36 this time, and the number you would have, just times it by all these, and you'll see that they get different numbers at the end.
And given there's no children, the husband gets half.
If there are no children at all, he would get half. If there are no children at all, he'd just get half immediately. And then these guys would get a bit more as well. So there'd be a different, there's more, it's a very detailed science. I'll walk you through the basics of it, which is what the matn just talks about people, who inherits and who doesn't go into details. I'll give you some details just for the benefit of you being able one day, if someone passes away and you're asked, you can give them some idea of how this breaks down. But there's a lot of details. I mean, there's a lot of situations that are complicated, that are not necessarily agreed upon, by scholars. But here, in this situation, no one else inherits. Uncles, nephews, nieces, cousins, siblings, grandparents, grandchildren, no one inherits. It's just these people here. Right? Only the people on the thing. Because these are the what? The 5 that always inherit. They're alive, they're always going to get a certain chunk of the inheritance no matter what.
So where can there be problems? Because we all hear about problems.
Inheritance? It's usually not about the numbers, it's usually about the assets. So I get a 6th, where is my 6th going to be? I want the northern part of the land. No, I want the northern part of the land, so they fight. But the actual amount is pretty straightforward for those who understand this stuff. Everything in the matn is agreed upon for all 4 schools of thought. There's maybe 2 things that aren't, and I'll talk about, but this is very basic. The matn doesn't go into the details that the scholars differ upon, which is usually something like the grandmother of the father's not alive, and there's some how much does she get, and so like little stuff that the Quran does not clearly state, and there's not clear evidence from what the Prophet ﷺ did. Now, where do we get all these laws from? We get it from Surah An-Nisa. يُوصِيكُمُ اللَّهُ فِي أَوْلَادِكُمْ لِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظِّ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ. One ayah, second ayah. Right, one ayah, and then the second page that goes through all these things. So this is where we get all this stuff from. It's usually, there's less hadith evidence here than there is, because the Quran kind of covers most of it. Okay, so those are the ones that always inherit. وَمَنْ لَا يَرِثُ بِحَالٍ سَبْعًا. There are 7 people who never inherit. They never inherit. Right? Of course, not all of them are agreed upon, but we'll talk about them quickly. Number 1, al-abd, a slave. A slave will never inherit from his master. He never will. وَالْمُدَبَّرُ. Al-mudabbar is a slave who will become free the day his master dies. That's called a mudabbar. So he's like, his master's like, you'll be free the day I die. Meaning, once I'm dead, you're free. So he does not inherit from his master. And of course, because he's a slave, I guess, as well. وَأُمُّ الْوَلَدِ. And the mother, so mulk yamin, so a wife who is not free. A wife who is a slave, she will not inherit from her husband. وَالْمُكَاتَبُ. The slave who has gone into a contract with his master that he's going to buy himself out of slavery, he also won't inherit. وَالْقَاتِلُ. And someone who murdered. So in this example, the lady died, and the husband is going to take a fourth, right? If he killed her, does he inherit from her? No, so if you killed the person, you're not going to inherit from them. So you're like, okay, he won't die, so I'm going to kill him so I can inherit from him, and then I'll deal with the legalities of that later. No, if you kill someone, you're not going to inherit from them, which is kind of common sense. And the Prophet ﷺ actually stated that, because some people thought about it. I've seen cases, wallahi. I've seen cases where people have contemplated, like, put poison for like a man who's like 98. Horrible person. Just totally unpleasant to be around. Owns a ton of land, has a lot of money, and his kids are all living in small rooms here and there, and they don't have anything, and they're waiting for this guy to die to inherit him, and he won't die. he just won't. He's outliving his other kids. He just won't die. So some grandkids are like, I poisoned him or something. We need to. So of course, if that does end up the case, then you will not inherit them if that is proven. But anyway, of course, murtaddu, and he who commits apostasy. And of course, this is an issue of difference of opinion. And وَأَهْلُ مِلَّتَيْنِ. and if there are two religions. So if you are a Muslim and your parents are not, can you inherit from them? So the majority of scholars say no, which is what we just read in this matn. However, خالفهم في هذا, who differed with them on that, Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu, the Sahabi, Al-Hasan al-Basri, and Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya and Masruq. These are known scholars of the early ages of Tabi'een and Sahaba. And these people, they خالفوا في هذه المسألة. They said no, even if you're a Muslim and your parents aren't Muslim, you will inherit from them, in the opposite. Their condition was that that you're not inheriting from those who حاربوا الله ورسوله. I mean, they weren't in combative state against Muslims. So if you're living, let's say, which is a similar example to what we have here, if you convert and your parents are Christian or Jew, they're living here peacefully and they've never really, they haven't declared war against Muslimin anywhere, then you can inherit from them. If you take the opinion of these four scholars, I kind of side with that a bit more based on evidence, but you can, if you want to be safe, you go by the Jumhur, and you don't, because once Deen changes, we don't inherit anymore. Once the Tawheed moves you out of what they used to be on. Wallahu a'lam. But there are those who differed on that, and I don't see there's really nothing wrong if you take that opinion and go with it, because there's really little, the evidence is not clear cut on this matter. I mean, the Prophet ﷺ, when he said, "La yarisul Muslimul kafir," the Muslim will not inherit from a kafir. Wallahu a'lam, he was saying this during the time where the wars were ongoing between Muslims and kafir. So and a lot of the Sahaba living in Medina, their parents were actually living in Mecca and they were fighting the Muslims. So when they died, the Prophet ﷺ told them, don't take their inheritance, because it's a time of war. And that makes a lot of sense because of the fact that there's a rivalry and there's animosity. But in a place where there's no animosity and there's no rivalry, then that's a different state. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. You can do either. Okay. وَأَقْرَبُ الْعَصَبَاتِ. Now here's a word that's important. So al-asabat. The translation for this is universal inheritors. What does that mean? It means they don't have a certain number. The mother will be given a third or a sixth. The husband will be given a half or a fourth. The wife will be given a fourth or an eighth. These are numbers. They are not subject to increase or decrease. There's two numbers. One of the two, but there's no other variables. They can't have anything else. Let's say my wife passes away. Inshallah, she doesn't, long life. But and I don't have kids, so I'm going to inherit half of what she owns. But she doesn't have anyone else. There's no one else to inherit her. Right? So do I take the rest? She doesn't have a father, doesn't have do I take the rest? So no, I don't take the rest. I can't take the rest. The rest has to go to a family member, which is someone who qualifies as asabat. So we take the rest of it. I can take a half, that's what I take. I don't take any more. There's no situation where I'll take more. And there's no situation where I'll take less, but I can take fourth, but that's also a number the Quran gave. So once I take fourth, I can't take any less, no matter what happens. And it's saying the idea, asaba, they don't give a number. And these are people who aren't given a number, they just take everything that's left. That makes sense. Al-asaba, or just whatever's left. Okay, mom, you take a sixth. The mother, here's a sixth for you. Husband, here's a fourth for you. What's left? Okay, we take we just take the rest. So who are the people who take the rest? So the first one, starting from the person who's this is going to be prioritized. This is based on priority, meaning who is aqrabul asabat. The people who will take, if they're there, they're going to take the most. The number one, who's the number one? Son. It's always the son. Number one, libn. وَابْنُ الْإِبْنِ where are we? ثُمَّ ابْنُهُ. And then son of son or grandson. Of course, if the son is not there. So the son is not there, then the grandson is going to be there. ثُمَّ الْأَبُ. And then the father. So the father is an interesting individual in the whole no, the father of the person who, we're talking about the father of the person who died. Okay, so the father is someone who's given a number. The father is someone who's actually given a number. He gets sixth, and sometimes he may get a bit more, but he's also a asaba. So in a situation where there's no one else left, he can take the rest. So he's a specific individual who's capable, who's given a certain number, meaning he's always guaranteed a number, right? And then there is a possibility that he could take also he can take everything that is left because he's the father. Obviously, that is the proper reasoning behind it. ثم أبوه, and then the grandfather. Again, what are we talking about? We're talking about people who will take what is left of the inheritance after those who are owed certain numbers take their numbers. This is when we take what's left. ثم الأخ للأب والأم, and then a full brother. And a full brother. ثم الأخ للأب, and then a paternal brother. I'm saying here that these are the only people who will inherit. I'm saying that after those who are owed dues take what they're owed, what's left can be taken by one of these individuals by priority. If the son's there, he takes everything that is left, or he's a part of the equation of taking what's left. You guys saw a minute ago how we did the equation. So whatever's left after we gave the husband, gave the spouses, we gave the parents, what's left, if the son is there, then he's capable of taking what is left with his sisters, meaning between the math between his and sisters. If he's not there, there's a grandson, then the grandson can do it. If the grandson's not, if there's no grandson or son, then the father can do it, and the grandfather. A full brother can do it, a paternal, but this is after. So if the daughters are there, the daughters will take. It's not saying that the daughter's not, so let's say there's no son, then the daughter just doesn't get anything, just the paternal brother takes it. No, the daughter gets a nasib. There's a certain number that she gets. She can't take it all. This is the difference. So a male inheritor, like a son, can take everything that is left. A female can't. She can take a certain number, which is a half or 2/3, something like that. They're numbers, but she can't take it all. Okay, paternal brother. After that, just to finish up, then a full nephew, and then a paternal nephew, ثم العم ثم ابنه, and then uncle, and then cousin. And if there's none of these people are alive, then Mawla al-Mu'tiq, the person who freed, if the person was a slave, then his master is the last person on the list here. And if none of them exist, then Bayt Mal al-Muslimin. Then in some situations, if there's a daughter, she can end up taking it all if none of these people exist or are alive. Okay. Now, so I'm going to give an example, inshallah, before, or just maybe after Salah, I'll give an example so this makes sense. He says, he continues by saying, وَالْفُرُوضُ الْمَذْكُورَةُ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى سِتَّةٌ. Al-furud, meaning the set amounts of inheritance that are specified in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are 6 different types. So what's the first one? An-nisfu. So the Quran talked about some people getting a half. An-nisfu, wal-rubu'u, wal-thumun, wal-thuluthan, wal-thuluth, wal-sudus. Wal-thuluthan, wal-thuluth, wal-sudus. So these are the different numbers that were talked about in the Quran. These are the set amounts. So usually those who take set amounts will not be universal inheritors, won't take the rest, except one person. Who was the one person we talked about? So the father or the grandfather if the father is not there. So the father is given a set amount, he's given a certain amount, but he's also capable of inheriting everything that is left in case the son and the grandson are not there. So if I pass away and I don't have a son, right, then my father will be the universal inheritor. Even though my father, had my son been alive, would get a certain percentage, he would get a 1/6. He's owed a 1/6 of my inheritance. But if my son isn't there, then he can be a asaba, he can be a universal inheritor, and he can take the rest. But everyone else here aren't like that. Either you're a asaba, either you're someone who can universally inherit, or you're someone who's given a certain amount. Does that make sense so far? So either you're someone with a certain amount, or you inherit universally if no one, whatever is left, except the father, who can be on both sides of this equation, which talks about the importance of fathers. Okay, so the Imam starts by saying, فَالنِّصْفُ فَرْضُ خَمْسَةٍ. So who takes a half? So this is how he's going to go by. He's going to say, okay, these are the people who are allowed to take half. These are the people who can take 1/4. These are the people taking. That's how he goes by the matn. So, and I'll do that, but I'll do it by examples. Meaning, we'll give an example of someone who passed away, and then we'll talk about how much different people will take in terms of inheritance, and then we'll give an example of an amount of money so it makes sense to you, and you can see how it's not as as difficult as we were led to believe. There are people who will get certain amounts, half, fourth, eighth, 2/3, 1/3, 1/6. Different people get different amounts. And then there are the universal inheritors, the people who just take the rest, right? Usually, if you get a certain amount, you're not a universal inheritor, and vice versa, except the father and maybe the grandfather. They can end up taking everything that's left. They also get in case no one's around to do it. So that's just kind of a distinction if they're alive.
Hey, Mr. What about the son? It's part of children, right?
So the son doesn't have a certain amount.
It says children. That's okay.
He just takes whatever is left, right? But these numbers are for different individuals. But these are the 5 that you need to know the most when you're talking about inheritance. These 5 will always inherit. Okay, so let's give an example. So this is clear. I'll take this off. Remember the word asabat. So the universal inheritors, keep that in mind. It's an important word for you to know. قال فالنصف فرض 5. So who can get a half? So we'll start, first of all, al-bint. In certain situations, the daughter can inherit half of what her father or her mother left her. Okay, so in certain situations. Number 2, وَبِنْتُ الْإِبْنِ. Paternal granddaughter, if that's even a proper word, I don't know. I don't know, meaning the granddaughter from your son. Up, yeah, so what would I say? Paternal means male, like from the father's side. So I don't know if this is, so if you were to change this, it would say granddaughter.
Of son.
From son, okay? After that, al-ukhtu min al-abi wal-um. Full sister. In certain situations, these people can inherit half. Not all the time, obviously, but in certain situations. وَالْأُخْتُ مِنَ الْأَبِّ. Paternal sister. And husband. There are no kids.
What's the difference between full and?
Okay, so a full sister is the sister who her parents are both your parents. Paternal sister, her parents, her father is your father, but her mother is a different mother. Maternal sister would be, you have the same mother, but different fathers.
So like a stepsister?
Yeah, stepsister, yeah. So like if your father, for example, married another woman, or your mother passed away, or if your dad passed away and then your mother married again, so you'd have a paternal sister, a maternal sister, paternal brother, maternal brother. Okay, so these are the 5 people who can inherit half. They don't always inherit half. That's why I said can. They can get half, but they don't always get it. But that's an example. Okay, so that's the first group of people we talked about. These are the people who can get half of the inheritance. The most common one you will see is the husband and the daughter. Memorize those 2. The most common ones you'll see is the husband and the daughter. You'll see that a lot.
In some cases, the mother is the person who delivers the baby, but it's not the actual mother.
No,
Like
it doesn't matter. Biological. Here we're talking strictly biological. Right? We're not talking who raised you. No, it's strictly biological. That's why this is very specific. This is rahim.
No, but I mean like there are cases where the mother delivers the baby of another person.
Oh, no, that's a different thing. Oh, whoever you're genetically a part of. That's just surrogate. Surrogates don't get anything, no. فَنِصْفُ فَرْضُ خَمْسَةٍ. Half is the what you owe in terms of inheritance for 5 different types of people. Al-bintu, the daughter, bintu al-ibni, the granddaughter from the son, wal-ukhtu min al-abi wal-um, a full sister, wal-ukhtu min al-ab, the paternal sister, wal-zawju idha lam yakun ma'ahu walad, and the husband if there are no kids involved. Wal-rubu'u fardu ithnayn, and who can get a quarter of the inheritance. So 2 types of people can get it. الزوج مع الولد أو ولد الابن. So the husband with kids or grandkids. So the husband will get a fourth if there are kids or grandkids. وهو فرض الزوجة والزوجات مع عدم الولد أو ولد الابن. And it's what the wife will get, or the wives will get all together. If there's more than one wife, they still all get a fourth. If they مع وجود مع عدم الولد أو ولد الابن, when there are no kids and no grandkids. So it has to be here no kids or grandkids.
So divorcees never get anything.
Yeah, no. Mutallaqat get nothing. Unless he tried to divorce her on his deathbed. In that case, it's invalid. We talked about that once before, somewhere in this method. I can't remember where. So wife or wives will get a fourth of whatever he left. I remember someone told me that's not fair. But here's the catch. See, if you have more than one wife, Islamically, that means you're quite wealthy. So they're still going to end up with a fair amount of money at the end. Like from an amount perspective, they're going to get a fair amount because someone who has more than one wife is someone who has a lot of money, or else you wouldn't have more than one wife, or shouldn't Islamically have more than one wife, and they're going to get a fair amount. They're not going to get a fair percentage. They're getting an eighth at this point if there's 2 wives, and they're getting less than that if 4 out of 12 if it's, or they're getting a third of a fourth. Right, 1 out of 12 if there are 3 wives, and 1 out of 16 if there are 4 wives. But that usually, if you have more than one wife, you have more money, so the amount is going to be 1 out of 16 from 16 million is not bad, right? Does that make sense? Like, what I'm saying? Like, so you have 16 million, 1 out of 16, you get $1 million. That's not bad. And there's 4 other wives in the picture. 1 out of 16 out of $50,000 is ridiculous. But why do you have 4 wives? You have $50,000 all you owe. That's all you own in this world. That means there was something wrong in all of your marriages to begin with. So who can get fourth? A husband can get fourth if there are kids in the picture, and a wife can get fourth if there are no kids in the picture. Meaning the highest the wife can get is a fourth, right? And the lowest a husband can get is a fourth. So let's just, I'll do this on the side just to kind of help everyone. So what do husbands get? Because they are spouses. 5 people will always inherit. Spouses, parents, and kids. So a husband is a spouse. What will he get? Either? There you go. What's the difference? Here, kids. Here, no kids. What will she get? 4th, 8th. Kids, no kids. Is that clear? Yeah, so when there's no kids, they get more. When there are kids, they're going to get less, right? Because the kids now will start taking more because they're there. Okay. So now we're going to talk about a different amount. We're talking about 1/8. Right. So who gets 1/8? I just kind of gave you a hint of what is that. وَالثُّمُنُ فرض الزوجة والزوجات مع الولد أو ولد الابن. And it's only one person who gets it. It's the wife when there are kids or grandkids. Fair? So a wife will get an 1/8 if there are kids or grandkids. Okay, so now we talked about who gets half, quarter, and 1/8, right?
Includes daughters, right?
Yeah.
And granddaughters. Okay.
Yeah, so grandkids. I didn't say grand boys, grandkids.
But here it says walad.
Walad means both. Al-walad, both male and female.
Because you wrote son in the other one. In the earlier, and you didn't say.
Which one?
When you had the one.
Asabat? Yeah, so it's son. It's not walad. Yeah, so it's son. It actually is son. It's just a male.
But I thought here.
It says ibn.
Ibn. Oh. Okay.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah, it's okay. These are the numbers are a bit. But I want you guys to have. Do you have a piece of paper? In a few minutes, I want you to take out a piece of paper because I want you guys to do with me the math. Because once you learn how to do it, you'll enjoy it and you'll start doing it more often when needed. Inshallah, you don't have to do it very often, but it's fun to do the actual math. وَالثُّلُثَانِ فَرْضُ أَرْبَعَةٍ. Who gets 2/3? 4 types of people will get 2/3 of the inheritance. Number 1, البنتين وبنتي الابن والأختين من الأب والأم والأختين من الأب. So first of all, 2 daughters. If they're alone and there are no sons, then they will get 2/3 together. Right? So each one will get 1/3. But together they get thuluthain. That understood? So if there's no sons, if I die and I don't have sons, I just have 2 daughters, they will get 2/3. Right? And of course the rest will have their own thing, but they get 2/3, and if there are more of them, then they'll also just get 2/3. So 2 daughters, 3 daughters, 4 daughters, 2 or more. Yeah, 2 or more basically. If there are no sons. Again, who can get 2/3? It's not always going to get 2/3. There are certain circumstances that will allow them to get 2/3. وَبِنْتَيِ الْإِبْنِ, and 2 granddaughters from the son side. وَالْأُخْتَيْنِ مِنَ الْأَبِ وَالْأُمِّ, 2 full sisters. In some circumstances will get 2/3. And وَالْأُخْتَيْنِ مِنَ الْأَبِ, and 2 paternal sisters. In some circumstances with no one else, they will get 2/3. All right. So let's talk about the daughter, just because it came up and it's here. So let's talk. What would the daughter get?
So maternal sister will not get any say?
No. Only paternal. There's a different equation for maternal people. We'll talk about them later. But for this, 2/3 goes to 2 or more daughters in certain situations, 2 or more granddaughters in certain situations from the son, 2 or more full sisters, and 2 or more paternal sisters. So 2/3, that number will only apply to one of these 4 categories. Now to talk about the daughter for a moment. The daughter can get one of 3 things. She can sometimes get a half if she's alone, if she's totally alone. There's no one else. I pass away, you only leave a daughter. She gets half of what you own.
Nobody ever gets full, right?
Daughters? No, they can be full. If you pass away, you leave, who are the 5 people who have to inherit? Spouses, right? Parents, children. You pass away, you leave no parents.
Well, you leave a son.
You leave no spouse, right? And you leave no daughters, you just leave a son. He takes it all, right? He does everything. A daughter takes half. She'll take half, and then the rest of that you have to look for other inheritors in the family. I'll justify and explain why at the end of the, because that's not the point. I'm not here to defend this. I'm just going to explain to you the math, but I will explain why that is the case in an Islamic system. So if she's totally alone, she'll get half. And if she's with another sister and they're alone, then they are subject to 2/3, but she's not going to get 2/3. She's going to get that with someone else. So this is not all for her, right? It's going to be, she could get 1/3 in the situation. And if there's more than one daughter, she'll get maybe less than that. So, but that 2/3 are for if only ladies, only girls are inheriting, 2/3, they can take 2/3, right? And then they can divide it equally amongst themselves.
So in other words,
and then asaba ma'al ibn, which is the most common situation, is that she becomes a universal inheritor with the son. Meaning the son is a universal inheritor, and with him his sisters. His sisters would be a part of his equation, right? So if the son is there, suddenly they're inherit. So let's say you pass away, and I told you, what you told me is if there's no one else but the son, he'll inherit everything, right? So if he has a sister, then he and his sister will inherit everything. She'll get 1/3, he'll get 2/3, because he gets twice, right? And so on and so forth. Does that make sense? So she becomes asaba ma'al ibn. She's with her son, with her brother. Now she's asaba. She will universally inherit everything with a certain percentage. She gets a certain percentage of it, and he'll get a certain percentage of it. So that's in terms of a daughter. Okay. وَالثُّلُثُ, thuluth. والثلث فرض اثنين. Two people will inherit, have the ability, who can get three, who can inherit three. الأم إذا لم تحجب. The mother, if there are no children, so إذا لم تحجب means she's not being inhibited. I think the best word for hajab is inhibition. She's not being inhibited by others. So she doesn't have any kids, or he doesn't have siblings as well in certain situations. So he doesn't have kids or siblings. So no kids or siblings. In that case, the mother can take a third. وهو الاثنين فصاعدا من الإخوة والأخوات من ولد الأم. Okay. Okay. وهو للاثنين فصاعدا, so for more, two or more, من الإخوة والأخوات من ولد الأم, so for maternal siblings. In this situation, males get equal to what females get. In this situation, if there's like five maternal siblings, 2 guys and 3 girls, they all get exactly the same, right? But this is a specific situation, a specific circumstance. Not always. As I've given a number of examples right now, most of the time they never inherit. Like, it's very rare. But if they are inheriting, then this is what a third is what's going to be given to them, and it's going to be divided equally amongst them. If that is the situation, I'll give examples of when that's going to be applicable. It's very rarely applicable, because you basically have to have no kids, no parents, no full siblings, no grandparents, no grandkids. All you have are siblings from your mother's side, maternal siblings, and they get a third then altogether, and they'll just divide it amongst them. They could be 1,000,000 of them. They just get a third, you just divide amongst them equally a third. Okay. Now the final amount was sudus, right? Who gets a sixth of the inheritance. والسدس فرض سبعة. There are 7 different recipients of who can inherit a sixth of the inheritance. الأم مع الولد أو ولد الابن. So the mother, so with kids or grandkids. So the mother will go from taking a third to taking a sixth once there's kids involved. واثنين فصاعدا من الإخوة والأخوات. Full siblings. A sixth can be something that more than 2 full siblings can take in certain circumstances. Again, this is not always. وهو للجدة عند عدم الأم. Maternal grandmother when there is no mother. So maternal grandmother when there is no mother in this picture.
What about, so how do you know that it says maternal and not paternal?
So read it with me. وهو, look, are you looking at it? وهو للجدة عند عدم الأم.
Yeah. So if the,
because she has nothing to do with the other one. Because she doesn't affect the other one. The mother doesn't affect the other grandmother. She's not related to her, so it doesn't.
Okay.
ولبنت الابن مع بنت الصلب. ولبنت الابن مع بنت الصلب. So granddaughter will get a sixth when inheriting with the daughter. All right. So when they're inheriting, ولبنت الابن مع بنت الصلب, when inheriting with the daughter. So there's only a daughter, then the daughter will get a half, right? And she will get whatever is left to the 2/3, which is a third. Which is a sixth, which is what the Prophet ﷺ gave as a ruling. So when a daughter's alone, she gets a half. What happens to the granddaughter? Right? I mean, the other sibling is dead. She's not alive. Then she will get whatever left of the 2/3, which is a sixth.
So the granddaughter is the nephew of the other girl.
Yeah, a niece.
Niece.
Niece of the girl. Yep, niece of the girl who got it half.
But not
Yeah.
the daughter of the actual.
No, not the actual one. Khalas, see, her daughters don't get anything.
Okay,
She gets it. Okay. Now these are a bit difficult, but they're not important to you to memorize. Just understand them for now, because I'll give the examples. وهو فرض الأب. Sorry, there's more. وهو الأخت من الأب مع الأخت من الأب والأم. So paternal. وهو للأخت من الأب, paternal sister, with full sister when they're inheriting together. In a similar example, the full sister will get half, and she'll get whatever's left of it. Whatever is left of the 2/3, which is a sixth. Don't worry if this is confusing. It's okay because this is a bit more detailed. But we'll give the big important examples in a minute. وهو فرض الأب مع الولد أو ولد الابن. Father, he gets a sixth when there are kids. When there are not kids, how much does he get? When the father gets a sixth when there are kids. With kids. So when there are no kids, how much does he get? Because when the mother, if you remember a second ago, we talked about the mother. We said the mother will get one of two things, right? The mother, what are the two things she'll get? A third, right? Or a sixth. No kids, kids, right? So father. So your daddy, right? If there are kids, he's going to get a sixth. No kids, what's he going to get?
Half.
What did I write here a second ago? Al-asabat. I said asabat, universal inheritors. Son, grandson, father, right? So he's an asaba. When there are no kids, when there are no son and grandson, who's left to take everything? He's asaba. He becomes the guy who takes the rest of it. Given there's no son or grandson, right? So no kids, he becomes asaba. But he gets sixth if there are kids. A sixth of the inheritance.
So you can get the full thing again, sorry.
Yeah, so if you die, you have nothing. You never got married, you're an only child, and you have no siblings, and you just have a dad.
If I have a dad and a mom, they each get half.
If you have a mom, she gets a third because there's no kids, and he gets the rest. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, one more. وفرض الجد عند عدم الأب وهو فرض الواحد من ولد الأم. وفرض الجد عند عدم الأب, the father plus grandfather. I mean the grandfather exactly the same if the father is dead. So if you pass away and you only leave a grandfather, your father is even dead, your mother is dead, you didn't marry, you have no kids, you're an only child, you have no siblings, then your grandfather takes it all. So the grandfather is like a father. Always treat a grandfather in your mind like a father if the father is not there. I mean he fills in for the father if the father is not there. The final one, وهو فرض الواحد من ولد الأم. So maternal sibling. Maternal sibling, an only maternal sibling. So only one. So if you only leave a maternal sibling, he'll get a sixth, but he won't get anything more.
But you mean only the paternal grandfather, right?
Yeah, we're talking about paternal grandfathers here. Yeah. So here, father, because it's the father. So the father of the father is a paternal father, right? Because it's a father. Make sense? No, you don't have to know all these. These are quite complicated. I'm not asking you to all know this, but just know these two. Basically, understand the mother will get 6 when there are kids, the father will get 6 when there are kids and their siblings, and he'll get the rest when they're not. And the rest of this are very specific situations that we can explain, inshallah, once we come to them, if we ever come to them. I mean, because those type of situations you just give to others. If someone comes and tells you, my dad died, and a friend of mine died, and he has no kids, and he has maternal siblings, and a maternal grandfather and a half brother, and just go to someone who can do, because the math is too difficult. There's difference of opinion here. There's a lot of difference of opinion. But the stuff that are pretty simple is when there's a normal, kind of a natural family setting. That's where it becomes quite easy. Okay. So here he starts talking about who's inhibited. from this. Actually, it's not very long. This is a very, very short chapter. The chapter will be done. It's like a page and a half. You can finish the chapter today, but we don't have to, because actually I want to do some examples. But I'll just read this because it's important. وَتَسْقُطُ الْجَدَّاتُ بِالْأُمِّ. And grandmothers will no longer inherit when the mother's there. وَالْأَجْدَادُ بِالْأَبِي. And their grandfathers will inherit when the father is there. وَيَسْقُطُ وَلَدُ الْأُمِّ مَعَ أَرْبَعَةٍ. And the kids of your mother, meaning your maternal siblings, will no longer inherit with 4 people being there. Al-walad, of course, your kids. Walad al-ibn, the kids of your kids. Wal-ab, your father. Wal-jad, your grandfather.
Sorry, I don't want to...
Yeah, go ahead.
See, that sentence goes back to what we were saying.
Sure.
وَتَسْقُطُ الْجَدَّاتُ بِالْأُمِّ. Like the grandmothers...
So this is different. This is deferred upon, like extremely deferred upon. Whether the paternal grandmother stops inheriting if the mother is there. That's an example of something that all 4 madhab differ upon. So I don't want to get into that. So just kind of take it with face value for now, because that's something that they really do differ upon. Like whether this is just maternal or does it go for both? Does that make sense? So this is it's an example of something that is quite heavily differed upon. I don't want to get into because it's just we'll end up talking for a long time about. Maybe you'll see this once, maybe never in a lifetime. Like you probably never see that. What is the percentage of people who die, leave no kids, and have 2 grandmothers who are just lurking around looking for money with them? It's just kind of it doesn't happen very often. Wallahu a'lam. Maybe in this country it does. I don't know. But okay. So a maternal sibling will not inherit when there is a kid, a grandkid, a father, or a grandfather. So siblings don't get anything. وَيَسْقُطُ الْأَخُ لِلْأَبْ وَالْأُمِّ مَعَ ثَلَاثَةٍ. And full brothers and sisters will not or be inhibited and won't or fully inhibited, meaning they will not inherit with the existence of the son, the grandson, and the father. Okay? If it's just the grandfather, then a full brother will also inherit. So that's what they're trying to say here. This is what he tried to say. وَأَرْبَعَةٌ يُعَصِّبُونَ أَخَوَاتِهِمْ. And 4 will inherit universally with their sisters, the son, al-ibn, وَابْنُ al-ibn, and the grandson, وَالْأَخُ مِنَ الْأَبِ وَالْأُمِّ, and a full brother, وَالْأَخْ مِنَ الْأَبِ, and a paternal brother. So a son, a grandson, a full brother, a paternal brother. If they have sisters, then they will inherit with their sisters. لِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظِّ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ. They will 2 shares for the guy and 1 share for the for the girl, if the situation allows it. Okay, I'll stop with that. In terms of moving forward in the matn, and I'll give it a few examples before you go. Just maybe one example regarding Ramadan. What are we going to do with Ramadan? So Yusuf and Hafiz specifically, because you guys are always here. So I said everyone else, but because usually the guys are always here. So I just want to know what times would you think we could do this in Ramadan?
Does Saturday work for you? After the
So the halaqat here run 4:30 to 6:30 almost every day of the week. I can do 6:30 to 7:30. You guys don't cook at home, do you? Like if you don't cook, then you can do 6:30 to 7:30 an hour if you like. Maybe on any day, on Thursday if you want, because the halaqah, the 2-day halaqah that usually is before this doesn't exist in Ramadan. We do it on a weekend, so we can just pull this basically an hour and a half forward, like take it earlier. So we can do Thursday 6:30 to 7:30. Are you open to that?
Yeah.
Are you open to that? Does your time allow that?
6:30 is kind of,
If for you? 7 to 8? So we'll start 7, that's fine. Because we're fasting anyway, so we're starving. Who cares? We'll just sit here and read Quran. So we'll start. That's fine with me. We'll start 7 inshallah. So 7 to 8 on Thursdays. We'll continue throughout Ramadan. I have no problem doing that inshallah, so that we can try and finish maybe the matn. Okay. So I'm gonna give you an example before we go.
and the rest of the halaqas.
So Sunday halaqah and Saturday halaqah and Friday halaqah are cancelled, and I have Saturday and Sunday after Fajr instead of them. So we pray Fajr on Saturday and Sunday, and I give a halaqah for around 45 minutes or so in English. So I don't do any Arabic stuff in Ramadan anymore, just because there's really no audience for it. And I choose a surah and we explain the surah. I haven't chosen my surah yet. I will.
Are you doing Arabic tomorrow?
Yeah, Arabic tomorrow is happening inshallah. There's no Sunday halaqah this week either. It's funny, I'm away 3 Sundays in a row, so I can't make it. But
That program is still there.
yeah, subhanAllah, what can you do? Okay, so let's let's give an example. So someone passes away, and they live, and I write down who they leave behind them. Okay, and then you're gonna help me. You're gonna guide me through, so I'll help you out. So they leave a father, right? A daughter, three full siblings, right? A paternal grandfather,
Is applicable here in Canada too? Is applicable in Canada too?
So you're allowed to have inheritance distributed with the Islamic way. So that's totally fine. You can put in your will that I want my inheritance to be distributed through the Islamic way, and it could be given to someone who can do it. Like you can name someone who will do the Islamic way of inheritance. That's your right to do so. But if you don't, and there's no will, then they can take it to the court of law, and none of this will be relevant anymore. I mean, the daughters can take it equal to what the boys take, and parents won't inherit and all that stuff. So Islamic inheritance is different than what is legal, the legal inheritance in Canada. But you have the right to put in your will that I want it to be Islamic inheritance. It's your money. You can do whatever you want with it, basically. So a paternal grandfather, 5 uncles,
5 uncles get nothing.
and 15 cousins,
Trick question.
and 25 nephews and nieces. Right? Isn't this a normal? This is pretty normal. This is pretty standard. A guy died. He left. Let's add one more. Left a wife. Right? His wife was alive. Usually, wives outlive their husbands anyway. They give us heart attacks. They never have heart attacks themselves, so no big deal. Yes, Adam.
Can you put this in somewhat of a family tree so it's easier to look at?
Sure.
Like a
Okay.
diagram?
Yeah, let me do that. So, the deceased. How do I write deceased?
D-E-C-E-A-S.
So the deceased, all right? So, his wife, right? Isn't that how it works? They have a daughter.
Full daughter.
He has a father. He has a grandfather. Yeah, and he has, what does he have? He has 3 full siblings, right? So sibling number 1, sibling number 2, sibling number 3. Or to do this better, yeah, so sibling number 1, 2, 3, all sons of the father. Or if you want to do this more like in a genetic code, yeah, you can have the mother, who is deceased. She's not around, right? And it becomes like this, right? Sibling, sibling, sibling. Correct? That's how it works. That's how it looks. So the father and the mother, but he's the guy who died, right? So we're studying this guy. This guy is the guy he's the star of the show, right? And then you have 5 uncles, 15 cousins, 25 nephews and nieces.
No way.
Do they matter? Not with these people, right? Not with these people alive. If you took out then maybe we can start and take out these guys, and suddenly these guys will matter. But not when. Who are the 5 people who always inherit?
Spouses.
So a spouse, parents, children. So we have them, right? So we have the spouse, we have a child, we have a parent. There's another parent not there. Okay. Now, when would these names all become important? When would these guys here, the nephews and cousins, and uncles, and siblings, and paternal grandfather become important? If we didn't have a asaba, if we didn't have any universal inheritor to pick up what's left, then they would have to look for them. But if we have a asaba, who's a asaba here?
Father.
Yes, the father's a asaba, right? If the son and the grandson aren't there, the father's a asaba, so you don't need anyone else. So the sibling can't say, well, no, your father's, Yeah, you're alive. You're not owed anything. And you don't get anything. Go back, stand in line. The father's here. If the father was, he was dead, then that's different. Then we'll give the example. So let's do this math. You have a paper with you? I want you to learn how to do the math. I think you'll probably enjoy this in the long term.
How much money does he have?
Yeah, so exactly. Well, first of all, we'll do this simple breakdown, and then we'll talk about how much money he has at the end. So let's do the breakdown. He left with him, who was the most important? The wife. These are people who are owed certain amounts. The father. Let's keep the father to the end. The daughter. Always leave the asaba to the end. It's just easier, right? And then the father. All right. How much does the wife get when there's a kid involved? 1? Yes. Yeah. How much does the daughter get if she's alone? Yeah. How much does the father get if there's kids involved? 6th. Plus asaba. Plus his asaba as well. He'll get a 6. If there's anything left, he'll take it. If there's anything left, he's going to take it. If there's nothing left, he doesn't take it. Why? Because there are no other asabat who will take. If the son was here, we wouldn't say asaba, and she wouldn't get half. She and her brother now would take the rest together, right?
Do the asabas all share equally?
No, the boy will get twice what the girl gets.
But I mean, if it's like father and then son.
Father's no longer asaba if the son's there. I told you it's prioritized, right? It starts with the son. The son is there, he blocks everyone else. No one's asaba anymore. Yeah, he gets all the asaba. He's not there, okay, the grandson. He's not there, then the father. Right, so it's just, we go from one to the other. So now let's do the math. What's the common denominator for 6 and 2?
6.
The closest? 6, right? So the closest is 6. So 6. Actually this is 8, sorry. This is actually an 8, so this is not going to work at all. Sorry, what's something common for 8, 2, and 6? 24. How much will she get out of 24? 3. Daughter, 12.
4.
6 is what? 4. Is there anything left?
From what?
There's 5 left.
Yeah, so 4 plus 5, which is 9. That's how you write it.
24? Oh,
Because you want from the 24. So he gets 4, that's what he's owed, and 5 because no one else is there to pick it up, he picks up the rest. What about the siblings? And no. Don't even come to the thing. Don't come in and ask. It's dumb if you ask for anything. It's not your thing. We're going to do this again. We're going to take out the father, and then you'll see, because then you'll, oh, that's why people fight, because yeah. So
if the sibling wants the full amount, he has to kill the father, the grand.
MashaAllah. Well, I like your logic is very MashaAllah alayk. So the amount that you left, Sayyid Harun, is $2 million. So what do you do? You should remember what you do at this point immediately.
2 million divided by 24.
Yeah, you divide it by 24, and you make 24 shares, right? So you'll give me Saad. Where's your thing? Your phone? It went. See? See if you didn't.
So 83,333.
That's like 3 weeks.
83,000.
333.
Times that by 3.
250,000.
So the wife is going to get $250,000. Daughter, times that by 12, the same number, 80, whatever.
Million.
Exactly $1 million?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly $1 million. Why? Because she gets half, so it makes sense. And then the father gets whatever's left, basically.
750.
Yeah, there you go. Sensible? Yes.
What happens to assets?
So I'm saying 2 million in terms of everything he owns. So we liquidated his assets, or we estimated their value, right? So and I'll talk about that at the end of this, inshallah, these little things in terms of what we do. But I'm just giving it, I wanted to make it as simple as possible. So let's say we take out of the equation, let's kill daddy over here. Right, he's dead. We don't have him anymore.
The granddad just gets the 750.
Yeah, so all you really do here is you just substitute the father with the grandfather. Right here, the same thing is written. Nothing changes. It's like grandpa, he gets exactly the same thing. But let's say they were in a car together and they both died. So now we don't have grandfather either. So now what happens? Because now we don't have asaba anymore. understanding how this works Islamically? Like
What if a family member was not there and then he showed up like a year later?
Yeah, don't get into this stuff because this is quite because there are examples. Like I'm not saying it's wrong, but that's of course makes it. Yeah, there's a lot of different. This gets very, very complicated as you go along. It gets very complicated.
Let's say in this world, what everyone's like around the world.
Yeah.
It's like
It can get complicated. For example, if I pass away, I leave a daughter, a son, and 5 grandchildren from a different son. Right, so I have to calculate what the son would get if he were alive, and then divide that to his inheritance, which is his wife, his father, which is me. So I have to come back to him again and go back. So it's a long. It gets very complicated. It's mathematically doable, but it gets complicated, right? So which is not what we're trying to do at this point, Yani. But here, I just want you to kind of think about how this works. So if there's no, the wife is still going to get, because there's a kid, you're going to get an 1/8, and the daughter's going to get a 1/2. But now there's an amount that is left. There's a.
The brothers get them.
Yeah, so we have to look who's left here. So you have to look at the asabat. Go back to did you write down the page of asabat? So if you go back to asabat, just because I think that's important that you understand. So the ibn, the son, ibnuhu, the grandson, al-ab, the father, abuhu, the grandfather, ثم الأخ للأب والأم, then the full sibling. So the full siblings are asabat here. They will get the rest. So he has 3 full siblings. What does he have in terms of siblings? Of course, there has to be at least one male here. If there's not one male here, then the females will just get a 1/6, whatever is left of the 2/3. There has to be a male there. That's why one of these, in this situation, is called the happy brother. Because when he's there, he gets a lot of money for his sisters. Because if he wasn't there, the sisters wouldn't get much. It's called Akh Sa'id because he brings in a lot of, he actually helps them. So if there's, let's say there's 1 brother and 2 sisters. Right? So, full bro and 2 full sis. These guys are asaba. للذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين. 1 share each, 2 shares. Are you understanding? So 4 shares altogether. Here would be. Am I making sense so far? How this works? So you would say the same thing. You would say there's 8 and 2. So 8 is the common denominator. She gets 1. Gets 4. What's left? 3. Right? So 3 for all of them. You need 4 shares, and so times by 4 times by 4 we get 12.
One.
He gets 4. Sorry, what am I saying here? No, 4. Yeah, 4.
So how much is left? Left is.
So there's 2 shares plus 2 shares. That makes sense? Yeah. So we need to, so we need to time this by 4. I'm saying right. So yeah, I'm doing it right. So 4 times 8 is 32. 4, 16, and then
6.
And then each
4 times 3 is 12.
So he gets 4, and then they each get
No, he gets 6. He gets 6, and then right, and each one of them gets 3.
That looks like a 2.
3 times 2 because there's 2 full sisters, right? And then you divide 2 million by 32, and you do the same math. All right. If there's no full bro, there's only 2 full sisters. She got a 1/2, and they will get altogether a 1/6. Are you understanding? They only get a 1/6.
And then the rest, the next asaba gets it?
Yeah, you have to look for the rest of the asabat. You have to look who's left. To move from full siblings, we have to go to asabat and see. You'll find that after that, you go to uncles. Right, so you move from, or paternal siblings if they're paternal siblings, so you move on. Okay, so this is just an example of how these things work. But my goal was not to extremely confuse you today with numbers and situations, but this is how it's done. Basically, this is the Islamic concept of how we do inheritance and how you should know a bit about this, you should understand some of it. I think every Muslim should have some comprehension of how this works. Next time I will complete reciting the actual chapter, and I will explain the logic behind it. I mean, I will explain to you why it is how it is. I mean, why is it that they get more and these get less? It's a part of an Islamic social system that is viewed. I mean, there's a system here that is in play that dictates things are going to be distributed in this fashion. So it's not a matter of women they don't get as much or they don't deserve as much. No, it's because of in a social Islamic system, certain people owe certain dues from their own money. For example, if I have a sister, so the deceased passed away and he left a daughter and a son. So the son gets twice as much as the daughter, but the son is responsible for financially supporting the daughter, where the daughter is not responsible for financially supporting the son. This is how the social Islamic system works. So yes, you're given more, but because you're given more responsibility in terms of financial support. And it's just how it works. So in modern situations or modern contexts, there are different ways of this being viewed because the social system now has changed so dramatically. No one's responsible for anyone. Your sister could die of starvation, and legally you had no responsibility whatsoever. You didn't have to do anything. Islamically, you're responsible legally, meaning the judge can bring you in and he could put you to this. Meaning he could actually jail you. He could take some of your funds. He could freeze your funds, and he could give access to the sister every month. Meaning there are these rulings that exist within Islamic law in terms of husbands supporting wives, brothers supporting sisters, fathers supporting daughters, grandfathers supporting daughters, and granddaughters. So this is the social Islamic system that happens, and because of that social system, this is this is the breakdown that we have within it. So this can't exist without that system existing. You can't have this breakdown and then not have the system properly in place in terms of the legal consequences if you not financially supporting someone who is in need of financial support, or else you just go back to the secular way of doing things if we're just not going to carry any responsibility at all, which I think is something we have to think about. Okay, subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik, wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi, jazakumullahu khairan.